Welcome to the FFPC Insider Access Show, live here on the Better Sports Network, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Means it's Fantasy Football Night in America. Hi, hello, and welcome. I'm your host, Eric Balkman. You know me from the X, at Eric Balkman, of course, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and the Fantasy Football Players Championship as well. Joined tonight by the guy who founded the Fantasy Football Expo, the guy who has had a fantasy football draft guide nominated as one of the best in 8 out of its last 10 years of existence, including the last 8. So you know he's dialed in, and he's been dialed in for a while. You follow him on the X at Bob_Long. Bob Long, welcome into the program tonight. So glad that you're joining us.
Thanks, Eric. Always a pleasure to be here. Always look forward. This is definitely one of my favorites. Every year, 2 full hours of just nonstop fantasy football, expo, consistency. Yeah, so this is a heaven for me, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Always love looking forward to this show and actually doing this show with you as well. I want to remind everybody too, you can follow not only Bob on X at Bob_Long, Big Guy Fantasy Sports, Bob's big venture, Big Guy FS, BigGuyFantasySports.com, Big Guy FS on X. And of course, the FF Expo is on X at the FF Expo. You can join the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament right now, $1 million grand prize, $50 off every third team that you sign up for. Drafts already off and running, both live and slow. 7 Bananas promo is live. 7 Bananas promo is when you keep getting that 7 pick multiple times in a row. We're going to keep giving you free teams, including but not limited to a Jungle Safari if you get it 5 times in a row. Join the FFPC main event. That is our flagship event, $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool, slow drafts and live drafts going on in that. And then, of course, the FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments live on myffpc.com, $300K and $100K grand prizes, respectively, on that. We added a $100,000 runner-up prize to the Best Ball tournament. Check that out at myffpc.com. And for you Dynasty hardos out there, Dynasty leagues are always live at myffpc.com. Play fantasy football 365 days a year. MyFFPC.com is where to go. 2,000 plus leagues over the last 15 years, and none have ever folded. Follow the Better Sports Network on X at Better Network, of course. Shout out to our producer, the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Deutsch tonight, pushing all the right buttons. I want to get into, to kick things off tonight, Bob, as I am wont to do on this show. I usually kick things off with something that's not even on the rundown, and that's what we're going to do tonight because we had big news out of Kansas City today. Regarding Rashee Rice. And this kind of, I don't know, man, it kind of took me aback a little bit here. But here's the bomb we got. So Adam Schefter has reported that Rashee Rice has been sentenced to 5 years probation, 30 days of jail time that can be served during those 5 years because of this multi-car car crash in Dallas. The NFL can now take disciplinary action if they want. I would imagine it is going to be a multi-game suspension here, but is that 2 games? Is it 6? I don't know. The suspension is going to happen this season, likely. I don't think it's going to happen until 2026. The Washington Post's Mark Maskey also added onto this report. It's premature to conclude that it is a multiple game suspension this season and that the outcome is actually not close to final, to muddy the waters even more here. So this is wild, Bob. Like I think most of us have been drafting Rashee Rice based on the positive news about his knee over the last couple of months. And then it sounded like, you know, for all intents and purposes, and we didn't even have a trial date set for this. And now all of a sudden, this sentence has been handed down. I'm assuming this is because of a plea bargain, but I don't know. Where's Drew Davenport? We need to get him on this.
Exactly. Drew.
Yes, paging Drew Davenport. So what we have to figure out right now, and I know the ADP is going to change, but at the moment, I think this is not including any of the Rashee Rice news. In the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, his ADP was 301 as wide receiver 12. How did I get that? I went to fantasymojo.com. At FantasyMojo on X, Darren Armani is the webmaster there. He runs everything, and he is the godfather of the Pros versus Joes Challenge. So anytime we reference ADP with the FFPC, it's always due to him. What do you think about that ADP? Wide receiver 12, 301. It's obviously going to go down now, Bob. But how much further down should it go? And how far is too much with Rashee Rice? Again, kind of knowing more, but not knowing everything at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you said that, I was looking at those, and The funny thing is I've been in a number of drafts, not a ton yet, some best balls, some FSGAs, various Scott Fish Bowls, that kind of stuff. And I don't have Rashee Rice on any team. It's not that I didn't really look to get him. I mean, if he fell to me and that it was a good spot, I would have taken him. But it seems like around him is always guys like Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown. And it's always like, I like their consistency because they have proven it in the past. And Rashee Rice could be good. He's had some, streaks, but nothing for a full season. And so I've kind of just passed on him. Will this move him down? Obviously. How far? I guess I mean, right now, if you're playing the guessing game, if it's 2 games, well, he's not going to fall far. If it's 6 games, now we've got it's big change. So, he might fall into the 30s. I don't think he gets outside of the top 36, even if it's 6 games, because there's just so much potential there when he does come back. The question is going to be what between now and that decision, how long does it take and what drafts you're going to be in? And I have to believe that most people will pass, but as you mentioned, if he falls far enough, then it may be worth the risk, like as a wide receiver 3.
My guess is that Rice falls to like the mid 4th, maybe late 4th over the next week or two, until we get, finite information on what the suspension is going to be. But this is my guess, and, take it for what it's worth. I think mid 4th, late 4th, that's where he falls to. I don't think he falls to the 5th round, unless, like you said, it's like a 6-game suspension or something like that, which I don't think it will be. But, Bob, I think by the time we get to Paris Resort and Casino in Las Vegas for the FFPC live events, I think he's going to be back up into the 3rd round, because I think that there's going to be a dip here. Tom Smith is already saying, go get some discounted Rashee Rice right now in your drafts. I think there's going to be a dip, but I think when it comes back to it and people are at those tables in Las Vegas, I think he comes back up to be an early 4th, but more than likely late 3rd round pick, assuming like a 2 to 3 game suspension. That's how I think it's going to go. Right. Will I be right? We'll see. But my advice to everybody out there is to get him now, because I think over the course of the next week or two, this is like the lowest he's going to go for the remainder of drafting season. And then Pros versus Joes, we'll see where he goes there too, which I think is going to be
I was going to say, I draft
right? on
June 29th, something like that. It's last Sunday of the month.
Oh, is it that late? Okay, I thought you were in one of the first ones. Okay,
no, I didn't
think
think
so.
so.
It up right now to find out where you're at.
Yeah, I just said, let me look at my calendar because I have it on there.
I see. So on Mojo's website, right now, you are listed as having the 9 pick on Sunday night, the 20th.
Oh, yeah, that is this weekend, isn't it? I thought it was next weekend. Okay, so I guess we'll see where he falls to me this weekend. I will definitely keep an eye on that. If I can get him as my wide receiver 3, I'll be giddy. Yeah. But I don't know if it'll happen.
And I think you'll be able to. I think you will be able to in that draft. Speaking of other wide receivers, we'll move on and talk about Stefon Diggs. Albert Breer has reported from Sports Illustrated yesterday that he believes Stefon Diggs is trending to play in week 1 as he recovers from this torn ACL that he saw in week 8 of the 2024 season. Now, in the offseason, the Patriots inked him to a 3-year, $69 million contract. That is wide receiver 1 money, top target money, and that's what he should be with Drake May this year. He's 31 years old, and this is another guy, Bob. I think you got to get your shares in on Diggs now. We saw a few weeks ago the videos of him, and I'm always hesitant when you're talking about guys coming off knee ligament surgery, right? Because they can run in a straight line as all get out. That's no problem. Right. It's the shifting back and forth. It's the cutting. And what I saw from Diggs was a lot of cutting. It was a lot of moving back and forth, stuff that I was really surprised how far along he was. Now, take it, again, with a grain of salt, because that was late June or mid-June or whatever it was. But I think I'm holding him in higher regard than a lot of mid-season ACL tear players. And so now when I look at his ADP right now in the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, wide receiver 42 at the 804, smash between Ricky Pearsall and Khalil Shakir. I think Diggs is going to move up with this news, and I think rightfully so. I'm bullish on the Patriots offense this year. I think what Diggs has shown us so far makes me think that that he's going to be in for a good season. And I think Diggs in the 8th round may not last too much longer.
No, I mean, the interesting thing was last year before he got hurt, he was 6 out of 8. So he's 75% consistent for the Texans with Nico Collins as number 1. So now he becomes number 1. So if he can stay healthy, be the Stefon Diggs we know and love. I mean, I'm sure he's a little bit slower, but they have nobody else. I mean, it's him or whatever they throw out in the field that week. And so, yeah, you have to like him, especially as that late. I mean, you can basically draft him as like your wide receiver 4 as a flex. So why would you not take that chance? If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out, and you move on to somebody else that you drafted in the 9th round. So yeah, I'm good with Diggs that late because of the value for sure.
With Diggs too, we have seen. I know you're going to reference the consistency on these guys, which is good because Diggs has had a lot of it over like you said, over the last 8 years. 6 of them were really, really good. And I think that you're talking about getting a player like this as your wide receiver 4, potentially a wide receiver 5, depending upon how you structure your team. That's looking really, really good. And again, I don't think it's going to last too much longer, especially with more positive reporting from Albert Breer here on the Diggs knee injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown was quoted on the Detroit Free Press's website by Dave Birkett. I think I'm pronouncing that. It's either Birkett or Birkett. I think it's Birkett. Offensive coordinator John Morton, who is taking over from Ben Johnson, is installing new plays and new formations this season. Now, we kind of, obviously, anytime you have a new offensive coordinator, there are going to be guys who want to put their stamp on it, change things up a little bit here. St. Brown has basically all but confirmed that, and this is something that we will have to be paying attention to this summer as much as we can. I don't know how much Detroit's going to reveal in training camp practices, preseason, so on and so forth. But I think the scuttlebutt is the downfield passing is going to be more prevalent than it was the last couple of years under Ben Johnson, which could mean big things for Jameson Williams. Jahmyr Gibbs was the PPR running back number 1 last year, despite 7 running backs touching the ball more than he did, which is crazy to me. And Jahmyr Gibbs has already said, Bob, that he's splitting out wide more often than he was last year. He's actually playing the receiver position more, which to me, it sounds like it's wheels up for everybody in this. I really don't want to penalize St. Brown. I think that there are certain people that are nervous about this knee cleanup surgery that he had. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it certainly weighs in on my mind. And Sam Laporta, too, I think is another guy that should really flourish in this offense. So my biggest concern, I guess, is I don't think Detroit can be as efficient as they were last year when they're the best offense in pro football. Right. But I don't know who I'm penalizing. Like, I don't know who it takes a step back. Maybe David Montgomery. I'm not really sure. But when you hear this out of Amon-Ra St. Brown, what does this do for you about how you're handling Lions or how you're going to handle Lions in your drafts this season?
I don't think I'm going to be fazed by any of that. I mean, like you said, they were the most efficient they were last year. Why would you mess with success that much? I mean, yeah, you can put in your own little stamp and twist and, okay, Amon-Ra, you set a line up here, move 3 feet over. That's a new formation. Okay. There's no reason to mess with it. John Morton hopefully is smart enough to understand that, and he doesn't get too crazy with this stuff. But when you have that plethora of weapons at your fingertips, using them a little bit differently then keeps the other teams a little bit off guard. So all of a sudden, Gibbs and Montgomery are in the backfield. Gibbs goes out, out wide, and now you don't know what they're going to do. They're going to throw it to Gibbs. They're going to hand it off to Montgomery. Throw it to Laporta. If they stretch the field with Jameson, Laporta catches underneath, Amon-Ra underneath. I mean, who do you stop? And if Montgomery stays healthy, I mean, he'll get his numbers. He gets 15 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. He earns this clutch game, and he's Mr. Consistency that nobody knows about. So they all have the potential. The one I guess I'm still not sold is going to take a step up is Sam Laporta, because he is what he was, or he was what he was last year. I don't know if there's I see anything yet that's like, okay, Laporte is now going to go back to where he was 2 years ago, or what, his rookie season when he was a machine. That's the only guy I'm not too sold on, like taking too high. I'd probably pass on him and take somebody else after, like a Kelsey or Mark Andrews or, Evan Ingram or something like that. That'd be the only ones I would maybe not pay much attention to, but the rest of them, I'm fine.
Sam Laporta right now in the Big Gorilla is still being drafted as the tight end 4. And he is going at that 4-5 turn, kind of on his own island, because the tight end 3 is George Kittle, who's going at the 2-3 turn. Laporta goes 2 rounds after that. And then Kelsey is not going in basically until the 5-6 turn. So you're looking at like kind of Laporta, like, unless you really believe in him, like I'm fine with waiting on for Kelsey, Hawkinson, Engram, and Njoku, any of those guys there.
Yeah, right.
Bob, let's go to Los Angeles here. Adam Schefter had this news from earlier this afternoon, late this morning, that the Los Angeles Chargers have officially placed Najee Harris on the active non-football injury list. Joe Hortiz, who's the GM for the Chargers, said he expected this to happen with Harris, but now we know. Jim Harbaugh said that Najee Harris is at the team facilities this week, and he can be activated whenever throughout the preseason. So this doesn't necessarily mean he's going to miss any time to start the regular season. I know his agent said that he fully expected Harris to be ready for the start of the season too. This was all because of an eye injury he suffered a fireworks incident on July 4th. And initially it was reported as being superficial. I don't know how you can have a superficial fireworks eye injury, but
let's say eye injury. That's Ask JPP about how those work.
Yes, exactly.
Shouldn't there be a class on this? He should come in and just put his hand up and go, "Don't mess with fire." It's like don't start forest fires, Smokey Bear.
I always, like anytime like an NFL player, just like a pro athlete in general, gets picked up for drunk driving or whatever, it's like you have all this money in the world. Just call somebody to pick you up, call an Uber or whatever. Like for fireworks, you have all these buddies that are there. And I guess some of his buddies did get hurt in this too. It wasn't just him. But like have them light it off. Like just don't be lighting them off yourself. But getting back to the fantasy point of this, we're going to talk about Hampton in a second. But let's first tackle the Najee Harris angle right now. His ADP currently is running back 41 at the 10:07. This is Tyjae Spears, Isaac Guerrero, Ramondre Stevenson, Bayshell Tootin neighborhood. Okay, that's where Harris is going. Bob, the first question I have for you on this situation related to Harris. Do you move Harris at all in your rankings? Based on this, I am really not. I don't think this is significant enough for me to say like, oh, I'm going to draft him much lower than I was now. I know people might be docking him a little bit. I don't think I am. Are you?
No, in fact, I have Najee in my rankings 29th. And actually, I moved him and flipped him with Hampton. So I actually had Najee at 24, Hampton at 29, and I flipped him with the injury. I think that, I mean, in my opinion, it's been this all the way through this preseason, is that Jim Harbaugh went out and got Najee Harris. There's a reason for that. He must like him. He's a run-first coach. Then they drafted Hampton, which they needed a backup. They needed somebody to be the future. I get that. But if Harbaugh's going to make that choice and Najee's healthy, which we assume he can run with one eye, that he's going to be the starter. He's going to have every opportunity to lose this job. He's also playing for a big contract, which he didn't get because his 5th year was taken away from him at Pittsburgh. So he's got a chip on his shoulder. And so I feel like Najee going to have to go out there and prove something. So I think it's going to be, he'll do his best if that doesn't work. But he's always been a fairly consistent low RB2, high RB3. I think if he can just, get the volume, do what he's done best, and be efficient with somebody like Harbaugh, and he doesn't have to necessarily look over his shoulder because Hampton's a rookie, where before he was kind of competing with veteran Jaylen Warren. I feel like Najee's a really good value. And if he's RB41, I'm giddy to take him as my RB3, kind of scenario. RB4 is a very solid backup and could be a flex starter, maybe your RB2 before you know it. So that's I know everybody's not that because they're all about Hampton and, the second coming of, LaDainian Tomlinson here, but I'm thinking that Harbaugh's going to give Najee every chance to lose this.
So one of the things, and I always bring this up with you too every year, because you are the consistency guy in this industry, you put more of a focus on that than anybody else. Do you feel like, because I knew you liked Najee Harris, by the way, this season prior to this eye injury, and mm-hmm. after the Hampton draft pick, I knew you were in on Harris. Mm-hmm. But when you look at rookies who just really don't have any sort of consistency when it comes to pro football, mm-hmm. do you feel like your model, the way that you make rankings, is skewed towards those veterans, and that maybe sometimes you give rookies short shrift, as I know a lot of Hampton people will be telling you that you're doing right now?
I'm sure. So interestingly enough, in the guide, I do an article every year called Rookies versus Consistency. And I have tracked since 2010, so almost 15 years now, of data showing that 89% of all rookies drafted in the first 4 rounds that are either a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, fail to earn over a 60% consistency in their rookie season. 60% is basically the lowest starter you should have on your team on a weekly basis, because that's just, that's 60%. Najee has been in that for years, but he's also been always sharing with somebody, whether it's, so it's Jaylen Warren and, whoever else. And so that's why I don't say I hate them. People are like, you hate rookies. I don't hate them. There's talent. Ashton Jeanty is going to probably be a very good player. And Hampton might be too, but he's going to have to wait, I think, for Najee Harris to fail. If Najee Harris fails, injury, lack of efficiency, lack of effort, but I don't see it when you're playing for big money. And that's what he's looking for, his last big contract for, or Najee. Well, actually he's looking for his first big contract. He's got to go out there and bust his ass. And that is going to give him that incentive. And I think Harbaugh will give him the opportunity. It's not that Hampton isn't a very good running back. He certainly might be, but he was a very good running back in college, and not all very good running backs in college become very good running backs in the pros. Hence the 89% failure in their rookie season. So, I just present data and just say, here's why I'm not as big of a fan for rookies. And so that's why I like Najee over Hampton at this point.
Harris is running back 41. Hampton, running back 17, Bob. There is a huge, deep, yawning chasm between these two guys. Now, I think right now, and I have been kind of out on Hampton because his ADP has been climbing, and this is only going to make it climb more. The thing is with Hampton, and if I could make the counter argument here, if Harris does miss significant time, right. Hampton is going to be running with the ones quite a bit, and he's going to be running behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And clearly, the Chargers went out to grab Harris early on in free agency, but they didn't give him a ton of money, right? And they went out and they soaked in first-round draft capital on Hampton. And I feel like the longer the look that they get on Hampton running with the ones, the harder it's going to be for Harris. That's the only pushback I'd have on that. Now, to your point, I mean, I can't in good faith pay running back 17 price, 404 in the draft right now for Hampton. I can't do that. I'd be much more likely to buy the dip here on Najee Harris for as long as he's on this NFL, the preseason NFI list or whatever it is. Running back 41 going at, what did I say? Running back 41 in the, I just had it right here. He is going in the 10th round. So you're talking about 6 rounds. Give me the later guy on this for sure. Yeah. Let's talk Atlanta Falcons football. Michael Penix is going to start this season as the QB1, something that Kirk Cousins did at the start of the 2024 season. Zac Robinson, who was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, says that MPJ is going to, quote, open up a different avenue within the offense, end quote. Now, I don't know exactly what that could – I mean, like, I don't think Penix is the most athletic quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be adding a lot of rushing yardage. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not. Cousins really didn't do that either. But what he may mean is that Penix maybe is going to throw the deep ball a little bit more this year to guys like Ray McCloud, Darnell Mooney, and, of course, Drake London. That's something that the Falcons weren't able to do with very much consistency in 2024. Josh Kendall from The Athletic, who had this quote, also said that the coaching staff is not going to ask Penix to rein in his aggressiveness. And apparently that's what they're most excited about, is his willingness to push the ball down the field, push the ball in the tight windows, trust his arm, trust his receivers. And if they're throwing more this year, maybe it's less touches for Bien-Aime Robinson, but it would for sure mean more efficiency for Bien-Aime Robinson this year, and Tyler Algier as well. When you look at Penix, when you look at Drake London, I'm very high in Drake London. Penix I haven't grabbed a whole lot of, but maybe I need to rethink that because I do like Darnell Mooney this year quite a bit as well. Bob, when you look at this quote from Robinson saying, and I think we read between the lines, it sounds like this is going to be a team that's going to push the ball downfield and not going to be as run heavy as they were last year. How does this affect how you're treating guys like London, Mooney, and quite frankly, Penix?
Yeah, I'm definitely in on London. I mean, when Penix played last year, he was so focused on getting Drake London the ball. And I had Darnell Mooney last year. I was high on Darnell Mooney going into last year, and he was great for a while. And then it seemed like when Penix took over, it kind of forgot about him. And then it was like Ray McCloud came into play. So we'll have to see if he gets focused back in with Mooney or not. But yeah, again, we've only seen this kid play 5 games. He only had 1 clutch game out of the 5. I'm not going to get any shares of him even as a backup. I do like Drake London just because I figure he's the only person they're going to really focus on the most as their wide receiver 1. Mooney, McCloud, I don't know what's going to happen there. And Kyle Pitts is just, who knows? I'm in on London. The rest, I'm obviously Bijan because Bijan's Bijan. But yeah, Penix, the rest of the receiving core, including Pitts, I'm probably not too interested in unless it's like one of those, tight end premiums or 2 tight end starts or something where it's, okay, maybe I'll get Pitts as my backup. But yeah.
I think Ian Hartitz had it on X either today or yesterday saying, it's basically the meme of like, there's no way I'm touching Kyle Pitts this year. But then he had that clip. I can't remember the movie it was from. It was Gary Busey as a baseball player. And he's like, and then you see Kyle Pitts out there in the 14th round. You're like, just one. Like, I'm just going to do it one time just to get him my team. Just that FOMO pick of, and quite frankly, Bob, I might do that this year. I'm not targeting Pitts at all.
Yeah, right.
I think like the interesting thing, we'll see how pros versus Joes go. I wonder if we're going to see Kyle Pitts as somebody's like number 3 tight end, because he has fallen so far, and especially if you load up on tight end, get a couple of them early. I wonder if he end up being somebody's number 3.
And pros versus Joe is tight end premium, right?
It is. Yeah. Yes.
Right. So that would be the only reason why.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And the thing is, when it comes to Pitts in that scenario, let's say you draft, Travis Kelce, and then you grab, I don't know, Colston Loveland or something. And then, you're already loaded up on running backs and receivers. Maybe you grab Kyle Pitts and you say, okay, that's it. That's my tight end core. I don't think that's a bad pick.
Right. It's not a terrible idea at that point. Sure.
CJ Stroud is the next player I want to talk about. DJ Bien-Aime, who covers the Texans for ESPN, said that Stroud has been working on his speed to evade defenders when he's in the pocket. He actually had shoulder soreness in OTAs that kept him from throwing the ball because of extra work that he was doing with the Texans training staff this offseason. He says he's been working really hard on getting his body right. He's trying to lose body fat. He's trying to get faster. He's trying to get stronger. And I think that Stroud, again, this is like from my fantasy baseball days. I love drafting proven players coming off a down year. Stroud proved he was a player his rookie year, and he's coming off a down year. And now you look at where he's being drafted. And granted, he doesn't give you the rushing upside of a lot of these, upper echelon quarterbacks in fantasy. He's quarterback 20 right now, Bob. He's going behind Lawrence, Love, Goff, Herbert. I think there's a lot to be said about waiting on a quarterback and drafting one in like round 12 or 13, and then drafting Stroud as your backup in round 20, in round 15 as your quarterback 20, or as the quarterback 20. I'm starting to like him as a backup this year. I know the offensive line is not great, and I think that's probably my biggest concern. They don't have Laramie Tunsil there anymore, but if he is bigger, if he is faster, if he is stronger, maybe it's a net.
I couldn't agree more, because again, he sacked 52 times something last year, running for his life. So yeah, if you're faster, guess what? You might get some rushing yards because you're running out of the backfield all the time to save yourself from getting killed. I'm with you. If I'm in a draft where I have, there's a 2 QB or definitely a late backup. Yeah, I have no problem with Stroud as my backup, and maybe he regains some of that from, a few years ago. They still have Joe Mixon. He was running the ball well. So, that certainly helped take some of the pressure off him. So as long as Joe stays healthy, run game stays solid, Joe Mixon's not going to set the world on fire, but he's going to be very consistent and very strong in the backfield, strong runner. But if he would get hurt, they're going to have to throw a lot. That could mean some big numbers for Stroud because, like you said, their offensive line is horrid and it got worse. So, yeah, I think hopefully he's worked on his speed, because I think he's going to be running for a lot more yards this year than he probably ever had, which is good. But it also means if he's running, he's not throwing the ball. So that's a bad thing for folks like Nico Collins and, those kind of folks in that offense.
The Better Boss pointed this out too on YouTube, and he put it up on the screen that he likes Cam Ward better than CJ Stroud. Now, Cam Ward is going 3 rounds later than Stroud, so it's not like you have to make that choice. But there is something to be said on drafting a top 5 or top 6 quarterback, and then if you do have that elite guy, you can wait and draft Cam Ward, the mystery box, the upside guy. Or if you really want to live, and I guess I don't want to say live dangerously, because I don't know how much danger there is in this, but let's say you don't take a quarterback until round 14. JJ McCarthy, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and then grab Cam Ward as your backup, and maybe you can play matchups that way, and you're investing a 14th round pick and an 18th round pick, and that's your quarterback position, and you can attack tight end, you can attack running back, you can attack receivers that way too. So I think there's something to be, it all depends on how you like the fantasy. And if you like Cam Ward better, then take somebody else in round 15 and wait on Ward, because you can get him later for sure. Let's talk about Carolina. Joseph Person from The Athletic, who covers the Carolina Panthers, was talking about, by the way, have you seen the Xavier Legette video, Bob, about him being afraid to get into some lake in Carolina? I don't know where it was.
No,
he's like afraid of the water.
Okay.
I mean, it's
wild.
Like, is
it Lake Minnetonka?
I don't know what lake it is. I have no idea.
It's from the Prince movie. It's from Purple Rain.
Okay, but he's not a Viking though. He's
that's true.
He's
right.
a Panther. But yeah, Lake Minnetonka. Who could be afraid? Prince taught us to love Lake Minnetonka and let those crystal clear waters wash over us. Anyway, it's worth it. It's worth a watch. It's like 90 seconds long on X. Anyway,
okay.
That's not what I wanted to get at. We're not talking about Xavier Legette's fear of water here.
Okay.
Aquaphobia or whatever it's called. Xavier Legette's production should increase this season, according to Joseph Person. Person said, because Teteroa McMillan is now in tow there, it's going to take pressure off of Legette. He had 8 drops, did Legette, last season. But he still, think about, he still put up, 400 plus yards, 40, 50 catches, 4 or 5 touchdowns. He wasn't terrible last year.
No, he was 61st.
Yeah. So I think that there's something to hear, or something here with Legette. Now, nobody's drafting him as a top 4 receiver or anything like that.
Right.
If you want to get Legette in the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, he's wide receiver 68 in the 16th round. So people are drafting him as a wide receiver 6. Are you buying into this, Bob, that Legette is actually going to be better this year despite the addition of Teterow and McMillan?
I think a lot of it depends on how strong Adam Thielen looks. I know he's 105 years old, but Bryce Young seemed to use him as a crutch when needed. If he can give up that crutch and use Legette as a crutch, then I think there's that possibility. But if he keeps relying on Thielen on those 3rd and 5s, or, he's getting pressure, so he's looking to the guy that he can depend on. He doesn't know much about McMillan yet. Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't see me going, I really like to get him in round 16. I'd take a Elijah Moore who's, has a good chance of being productive in Buffalo, I think, before I would take Legette.
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind in regards to Carolina, this is not like they came on at the end of last season, but I don't think the defense is ready to be a capital letters NFL defense yet, which means that Carolina is going to be throwing, right? And yeah, it's Elijah Moore. I mean, and I'll pick at nits here in Buffalo. Yeah, the Buffalo's offense is better. Buffalo's is one of the best offenses in the NFL, but I would think that Carolina is probably going to be throwing more than Buffalo. I'd have to crunch the numbers and find out who was throwing more last year. And then, just with, not like either one of those guys is the top target on their teams, but this gets back to like, how do you want to roll? Do you want to roll with the number 2 or 3 target on a team that might be throwing a lot? Or do you want to roll with the number 3 or 4 target on one of the best offenses in football? Like, it's just, it's one of those things. And I'm not going to call anybody out for taking more over Legette or vice versa when it comes to that point of the draft. Now, here's an interesting one, Bob, as we go to Chicago. Mike Berman had this story that Colston Loveland says he is 100% entering training camp. He was pressed further, when asked if he would be out on the field, and he didn't say definitely that he would be out there. He kind of waffled around that. This shoulder thing, man, it has made him fall down draft boards. We knew about it at the time of rookie drafts, but I don't think it really affected people back then because that was May. Well, now we're coming up here in mid-July and the end of the month here. Cole Kmet is still there, obviously, and they just paid him. When you look at Loveland, how much is this shoulder thing impacting you when you think about drafting him as a starter or backup tight end? He's being drafted as tight end 14. Again, in the tight end premium big gorilla format, tight end 14 at the 10:06. Okay, that's where he's going there. So when you think about Loveland, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are you trying? Are you a believer? Because I know you don't hate rookies, but are you a believer in Loveland there, or would you be more inclined to let Loveland go to somebody else, wait on Goddard or Isaiah Likely or Brenton Strange or Genu Smith or somebody like that?
Yeah, no, I think that's what I would rather do. If Loveland was the only tight end, there was no Cole Kmet, that's a different story. But with Cole Kmet there, like you said, they paid him. I'm sure that they're going to run offenses when he's healthy, Loveland's healthy, with a 2 tight end offense. But you went out and you got all of this, improved offensive line. You've got DJ Moore on one side, Rome Odunze ready to break out on the other side. Their running back is Swift, but he's not a game breaker at this point. He's serviceable, and I think he'll be fine. But I just don't know if Loveland, even if he is 100% healthy for the start of the season, if he's really going to be that effective to be worth me even thinking about. Like you said, I easily draft all of the other guys you mentioned before I'm going to draft Loveland.
And we're having this conversation in part because of guys like, Sam Laporta, guys like Brock Bowers, these guys that came in and put up great numbers. I mean, the narrative for tight end, it used to be like, you got to wait a year because rookie tight ends just, unless they're truly a unicorn, they don't produce. And then we saw that that's not necessarily the case anymore with some of these guys coming in. So we're not even having this conversation if it wasn't for those guys that I mentioned and some others as well. But in regards to Loveland, I think that if you are whether you're believing in the shoulder thing, like that's significant, or whether you don't think it's going to be significant at all, I would still encourage everybody to take a long look. I know he was a top 10 pick in the NFL. I know that those usually have high success rates when you talk about people who are drafted in the first 10 picks. But there's a lot of X factors. There's a lot of moving parts, new head coach, new, essentially he's catching passes from a new quarterback in Caleb Williams, new offense. We had the addition of Rome Odunze last year, and you had the addition of Luther Burden this year. So, I mean, on paper, you could tell yourself a story. I just would encourage everybody to exercise caution because there are some other things going on in Chicago. There's also some things going on in Tampa. Let's go down to Buccaneer land. Offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard was quoted by Jenna, Laine, who covers the Buccaneers for ESPN, that he's not going to try to reinvent the wheel as he takes over as the new coordinator for Tampa. This is 3 years and 3 new offensive coordinators Tampa's had. Dave Canales got things going. Liam Cohen kept everything running smoothly, and now it's on Grizzard to try to keep everything hunky-dory down in Tampa. Now, he spent last year, Grizzard, designing what Tampa was going to do on third down. That was like his big contribution to the Buccaneers last year. And he said continuity is essentially going to continue. It's going to be the same in this offense this year. They're using the same formations. They're using the same verbiage. They're using the same motions as they did in 2024. Mike Evans kind of compounded this or not clarified, but he added more fuel to the fire, like just saying like, yeah, he's confirming the same thing. It looks like a lot what we did this year is what we did last year. That's good news for Baker Mayfield, good news for Evans, probably good news for Godwin as well. So everything seems to be the same except for one thing, Bob, and that's the addition of Emeka Egbuka. How do you handle the Buccaneers differently, knowing that everything seems to be the same as it was last year, per Josh Grizzard, but you have Emeka Egbuka there, which could kind of gum up the works for Evans and Godwin, maybe even just makes things better for Baker Mayfield. I don't know. Your thoughts?
I don't normally promote people handcuffing wide receivers, but I think in Tampa, if you draft Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, you damn well better get Egbuka somewhere later because one of those guys are going to get hurt. Could be Godwin again, could be Evans, who knows? But they're not getting any younger. Both of them had injuries last year. And I just feel like, again, I'm not a handcuff wide receivers, but I think in this case, you better think twice. If you're going to grab one of those two and you're going to draft Evans, second, third round, Godwin probably a little bit farther down, which is still, I think, really good value for him. But I think you have to go out and get Egbuka behind those guys. If you have a deep enough bench, obviously it just depends on, what you've got bench wise, but yeah. And then we didn't even talk about Jalen McMillan, who was a really good fill in last year when those two guys were injured. So yeah, you've got a nice corral there of weapons, wide receivers. You think you got to go with it. And I have to laugh at the fact that, we talked about the Lions offense and we're tweaking it, but the Buccaneers offense, we're going to leave it a go, which makes sense. But why wouldn't the guy in Detroit say the same thing? Don't mess with it, I actually have a funny story I got to tell. I was driving for Pro Football Hall of Fame for a number of years, driving Hall of Famers around. In the one year I was driving Bill Poland, who was the GM for the Colts. And in the back seat was Frank Reich, who actually, it was Peyton Manning was being inducted, and Frank Reich and Poland were in town, and I just happened to be driving them to somewhere. And so we were talking about, and I said to Frank, we were talking a little bit about his comeback when he was playing for the Bills and that kind of stuff, or not the Bills, the Oilers. No, Bills. What am I thinking? Anyway, so I said to Frank, I go, Frank, I know you're in here with Bill for Peyton Manning. How are you associated with Peyton Manning? And he said, I was his quarterback's coach. And I went, oh, that sounds like a tough job. And I feel like the same thing with these guys. It's like, just tell them to do what they did before, right? Don't change anything. I mean, what do you say to Peyton Manning if you're his quarterback coach? Just go and be Peyton Manning.
I think the best thing for these guys to do is kind of let them do them. I mean, when you're talking about a guy who won, multiple league MVPs, but if you're noticing, like, you're the tweaker, right? You're the guy that's a bad term for it, but you're the guy who is pointing out the tweaks that he needs to make. Hey, this is cool, but what you should have done here was, look that guy off, and then this guy was wide open in the, stuff like that. Pointing out the little things, and then, quite frankly, Manning, Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, all these guys, they kind of see those little things anyway. So it's
they watch film, they watch themselves, But I just had to laugh when he's like, I'm like, well, that was a really tough job, and Bill Poland just went, and I'm like, sorry, Frank, I had to say it. I had to, I had to let it out. So
and
he laughed about it. It was all fun. But
I mean, and he was the guy that was. I mean, you pointed out the comeback, And how many years was he backing up Jim Kelly? That was kind of his easy gig too, Back up Jim Kelly, and be Peyton Manning's quarterbacks coach. You're going to have a good career.
And getting paid well to do it, that you never got hurt, other than, you played one game that everybody knows about. I mean, what a tough life to be Frank Reich, right?
And I'm sure he's not paying for any food or drinks in Buffalo for the rest of his life, for sure. Let's go to New York. We'll wrap up this segment with a couple of points I want to bring up from Zach Rosenblatt's latest piece for The Athletic. He said, quote, "It would not shock me if the Jets went from last to first in terms of rushing attempts this year," which I think is wild from Rosenblatt. I mean, listen, that would shock me. If you go from last in the NFL to first, that's shocking. That's shocking. That's surprising. Now, you want to talk about top 10 in the NFL in rushing attempts. Okay, I can get on board with that. But when you look at what they're doing this year with Aaron Glenn, we have to break this down. And if we're taking it seriously here, this is good news for Breece Hall. It's good news for Braylon Allen. And it's probably good news for Isaiah Davis as well. Allen, as a rookie last year, 92 carries, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3.6 yards per carry. That's nothing great. But apparently, Rosenblatt said, after speaking with Aaron Glenn and new offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrand, they're trying to model their offense after Ben Johnson's in Detroit, where Engstrand came from, with Breece Hall being Jahmyr Gibbs and Braylon Allen being David Montgomery. I still think there's value in Isaiah Davis as a late-round best ball stab and like a 28-rounder. I think that makes sense there. I don't know if I'm – and he's not saying that Allen is Montgomery. Montgomery's clearly the more talented player. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm seeing this Braylon Allen carving out a significant point in the backfield. I think this is wheels up for Breece Hall. I'm much more excited about drafting Hall, even though I have to pay a premium price compared to Braylon Allen. I'd much rather have Hall and pay that draft capital than Braylon Allen this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's – obviously we have a completely different team than what we saw with Aaron Rodgers. We know that's going to happen. The offensive line, is it strong enough to be? I mean, the reason that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery can coexist for fantasy purposes and be very valuable as a running back 1 and a running back 2 is because they have an amazing offensive line and they have all these weapons around them. The Jets don't have that. I mean, their offensive line may be solid, but all you've got is Garrett Wilson on one side. We don't know who the number 2 quarterback is, or not quarterback, number 2 wide receiver is. You've got a rookie tight end. You've got Justin Fields, and he was Garrett Wilson's, college roommate, but played on the same team. So he's going to look to him for a ton of targets, which is why I love drafting Wilson this year. But I just don't see how that's going to get. Teams will figure that out quick. If you keep running the ball all the time, and by rushing attempts, that means Justin Fields is going to run a lot too. So that's what we expected. So I guess if you throw that in, like you said, top 10, maybe number 1, that'd be tough.
It also assumes if you're going to be like number 1 or even top 5 or top 10, it also assumes that your offense is good enough to control drives. Like it assumes that you're going to be able to run the ball and run the ball successfully. Everybody wants to run the ball, but you have to do it successfully in order to do it a lot. Are they going to be able to do that this year? I know that they say they believe they are, but everybody says that. So it remains to be seen on that. And Bob, to wrap things up in this segment, in a week where Garrett Wilson signed a 4-year, what was it?
$130.1 million.
$130.1 million contract extension. In a week where that happens, I, of course, am going to ask you about Josh Reynolds as the second receiver for the Jets. Now, Rosenblatt said in the same piece, he thinks that Reynolds is locked in as the number 2 receiver. We just talked about how they want to run the ball. Is there any fantasy value in round 20 on, if you're talking about best ball here, of getting the number 2 wide receiver on the Jets, or is that just something that we can ignore? I mean, there's really no threat there. Lazard, Corley, it's going to be Reynolds or nobody. And quite frankly, I've done several 28 rounders this year. I have not sniffed Josh Reynolds anywhere, and I don't plan on it.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Reynolds. So this is the same Josh Reynolds as with the Lions, like as their 4th receiver for the last few, right? Okay, same guy. I mean, he had his flashes sometimes there when Williamson was out. You know, they didn't have really a good number 2. He had some decent games, to be honest with you, if I remember right. Am I going to draft him? No, probably not. But it could be one of those guys that week 1 or 2, he goes out and has 5 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown, and then he becomes the number 1 waiver wire fab pick. I could, something weird like that could happen because we've always seen that kind of stuff. But no, I'm probably not going to draft him either.
I want to remind everybody that you can, I would not advise it, but you can draft Josh Reynolds in the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, a tournament that features a $1 million grand prize. You're going to get a $50 discount on every 3rd team. The drafts are both going slow and live. And, of course, the 7 Bananas promo. If you randomly get that 7 pick multiple times in a row, it's going to start off with a free best ball team. And if you keep getting it 5 times in a row, we're going to give you a free jungle safari for 4. Who else is doing that? The answer is no one. Why? Because it's insane. And I will say this. We've given away nearly 3 dozen free FFPC best ball tournament teams. We've given 3 free FFPC main event teams away, too, with this 7 Bananas promo. So people are really winning with the Fantasy Football Players Championship this year. We're always winning when we have Mr. Consistency on. Bob Lung, at Bob_Lung on the X, the founder of the Fantasy Football Expo, and, of course, the founder of the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, available now at Amazon.com. Something that's been in publication for 10 years, and we will get into this more, Bob. In the last 8 years, it has been award nominated. So check that out at Amazon. We'll give you the full link later on. When we come back, I want to start doing this more on this show. We're going to start doing more game shows. We, for the first time, are going to play Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire, the Bob Lung edition. And the great part about this, no matter what Bob answers, he's going to be right. And this can help you win. Well, you won't win $1 million, but the advice.
I will, but I'm going to help somebody.
Somebody else. You are going to help somebody win $1 million with with this next game. You're watching FFPC Insider Access Show here on the Better Sports Network. He's Bob Lung. I'm Eric Balkman. We'll be back right after these messages.
What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here, Fantasy Alarm. And boy, do I have great news for you. It's that time of year. The FFPC main event is open. The flagship contest, in my opinion, the biggest number 1 contest in all of fantasy football. It's not just about the prizes. You can win $1 million, but if you win a contest like this, you are gold-plated, gold-stamped in this community. That puts respect on your name when you go in there with the big dogs and you win a tournament like this. So get set up with my FFPC now. When you use promo code ALARM, they'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more if you've never drafted there before, and you can get in there with the big dogs. If you really want, you can actually go to Vegas and draft at the Paris Casino live in these contests. You don't have to do that, though. You can draft online. They have 6-hour, 2-hour, and 60-second clocks, depending on what you're feeling. You're going to want to draft early and often in these to give yourself the best possible shot at winning. And let me tell you, when you go over to your social media bio and you throw FFPC main event champion in there, people start thinking about you at a different way. You are now an absolute champion and legend in this community if you win the FFPC main event. Open now over at myffpc.com.
This is the main event. event
We are
draft
drafting
season.
a main event team on FFPC, $2,000 entry team. Grand prize of $1 million.
I'm looking for that $1 million top prize.
Main event season is in full swing.
FFPC main event. I want to remind everybody, too, if you want those draft slots early, you have 10 days to get your teams. And once your teams are locked and loaded, paid for by July 27th, you're going to get your early draft slot on August 3rd. Great stuff. You can start plotting your way to how you're going to attack your main event, whether you're drafting live at Paris Casino in Las Vegas or whether you're drafting from the comfort of your own home. And part of that prep could include, but not limited to, the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, a $300,000 grand prize once again this year, just $125 to enter. The difference, we've added a $100,000 runner-up grand prize this year as well. That runner-up grand prize amount is $100K. That's the same amount as the grand prize for the Superflex Best Ball Tournament with the FFPC. That one is just $35 to enter. Drafts are available now, live and slow, 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks at myffpc.com. Tonight, we are going to play Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire with one Bob Lung, the founder of the Fantasy Football Expo, and of course, the publisher of the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, nominated for an award as best draft. Is it best draft publication, Bob? What's the exact
best fantasy football publication nominated as best football publication.
Nominated the last 8 years. I have no doubt it's going to be nominated again. So what we're going to do is we're going to play Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire. I'm going to ask Bob a series of questions. How many do I have here? 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like I got 8 of them. And I'm going to give Bob the answers. And Bob will have the opportunity to do everything you can do on the show. He can ask for a 50-50. I will eliminate 2 of the answers. He can ask for a lifeline, and I will be his lifeline, and I will give him my answer to the question. Or he can ask the audience, who everybody's watching us on YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook. He can ask them, and you guys can give Bob your thoughts on this as well. Or Bob can just play it out and just answer.
Can I phone a friend?
No, the only friend you can phone is me. I'm the
okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Friend. You could actually add, Matt Deutsch would probably give his expertise as well if you
I'm
want
sure.
to ask him. Okay, so let's kick things off with Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire? First question, Bob. Who is this year's biggest early round bust? Is it A, Saquon Barkley? Is it B, Bucky Irving? Is it C, Puka Nacua, or is it D, someone else?
I'm going to answer D, someone else.
Ooh, okay. So now this is good. I want to ask you about those other 3 guys. Who is the someone else in this question as the biggest early round bust, Bob?
I'm going to make some people really mad. It's Ashton Gente.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know if you're making anybody mad, but you're raising eyebrows. What's the line from Django Unchained? Originally you had my curiosity, Bob. Now you have my attention. Why is Ashton Gente the biggest early draft round bust this year?
So it's all coming out of my book. It's all coming out of the guide. So to be a first round value from a consistency perspective, you have to be at least 80% consistent. If you're not a worthy first rounder. So Saquon, yes. I mean, yeah, Bucky, but that was a stretch. Puka, whatever. But those guys, while they're late first rounds, are not having that hype right now than Gente is. In my guide, there have been 135 running backs drafted as a rookie since 2010. Only 7 of them have been over 80% or over in their rookie season. That means 95% of all of the other running backs didn't make it. Okay? Didn't earn 80%. Now, if he's 70%, is it good enough? Maybe. He's not terrible, right? Then when you start looking at these guys, these running backs that hit those numbers, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, and then some people. Leonard Fournette is probably pretty well known. He stayed, but Doug Martin is one and Eddie Lacy is one. Okay, none of those guys played for a smaller school that I'm aware of, and he's now playing for the Raiders. And the other thing that holds me back for him, he's going to get the volume. I get that, but the 3 out of the 10 top run defenses last year was the Chargers at number 2, the Broncos at number 3, and the Chiefs at number 6. They get to play them 6 times. So all of a sudden, I'm like, this kid's got a tough row to hoe here. And I'm just not sold on that mid to late round pick for a rookie who's got a lot of things against him that I can take. Again, some of these other players, Doug Martin played for, I thought so. I just couldn't remember. So to me, that's a guy that's just like, man, he could be Saquon, he could be Zeke, maybe he will. But I just feel like if anybody can have a big bust like that, I think Gente could struggle in a not so great offense against some very good run defenses. And if they stack the line and tell Geno Smith to beat him, because who's he got? Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. That's it. So I just feel like defenses will be very smart to keep him in check. And if they do that, it's going to be a long season. That's my pick.
So your pick is Gente. I think you've defended it well here. What's your level of concern, as I piggyback on your answer, with Bucky Irving and Puka Nacua, knowing that Irving, there's a non-zero chance that he's a one-year wonder, and Nacua, the way he plays the game, is definitely elevates him to a higher injury risk than some of the other receivers going in the same spot. And I'll throw in Barkley too, as well, given how much he carried the ball last year, and he's still going as like a top 5 pick. Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to Barkley to me is like an Adrian Peterson. They're aliens. They're not humans. We know that. And, Barkley, Derrick Henry, they work out. They take care of themselves. They do everything they need to do. Now, does that mean they can't get hurt? Absolutely not. Anybody can get hurt. We get that. But Barkley, I think, I'm not saying he's going to go out and put up the same numbers. I don't think he'll be a bust. He might be 80% of what he did last year, which is still really good. Is that qualify him as a bust? I don't think so. Bucky Irving, he was 71% consistent, but his second half of the year, he was like 88% consistent because he really didn't take over that role until like mid-season. It was kind of like share. Okay, now it's Bucky Irvin's. So I feel like he can earn that 80%. Puka Nacua has done it as well. And now they have Devontae Adams on the other side. Teams can't focus on Puka. I think he's got certainly the potential to be just as good as his draft pick will be.
In regards to we did a game with Wyatt Bertolone from Player Profiler, Fantasy Alarm, Dynasty League Football a couple weeks ago, where it was I'm too scared to draft this guy. I'm too scared not to draft this guy, and that's where I landed on Barkley. I don't know what that had to do with him, Bob.
Yeah,
I've drafted him once already at the 3 spot. I've passed on him at the 3 spot, and this is a guy too. I know everything's telling me in my head that I shouldn't be drafting him, but the alien thing with Barkley apparently applies here for you.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm sitting at number 5, wherever he's going to fall to, and Chase, Bijan, Gibbs, all of them are gone, it's between CeeDee Lamb and Barkley. I could go either way.
So let's go to your second question here. Question number 2 on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire, the Bob Lung edition. Bob, who was the most impactful year 2 player? Is it A, Chase Brown? Is it B, Bo Nix? Is it C, Caleb Williams? Or is it D, someone else?
I'm going to go Chase Brown, final answer.
Chase Brown, final answer. And of course, it is correct because all your answers are correct. Why is Chase Brown going to have the biggest impact this year?
So last year, Brown, obviously, again, kind of like in the same situation as Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, where he came in, him and Zach Moss were going to share. There was no real separation. Everybody thought that, it was what it was. But interestingly enough, by the end of the year, Chase Brown ends up 75% consistent, 13th ranked, and then 10th in total points, which is very, very solid. But what I want to highlight is that in weeks 1 through 7, he was 43% consistent. In weeks 8 through 17, he was 100% consistent. He was there every week, one of the best guys, top. And I think he finished 7th in that same time period in total points per game at running back. So I feel like he's got that ability to get to that RB1 spot. I have him ranked 12th actually myself. But I feel like he might take an even higher step up and maybe get into that top 7, top 6 if he can continue to play at the level he played in that second half.
Chase Brown is your choice for most impactful year 2 player. I agree with you, and also throw in draft capital in that. He costs more in drafts, which should make his impact larger. Right. I will not that I would have chosen Caleb Williams, but how big could Caleb Williams' impact be on fantasy teams this year, knowing everything that the Bears have done, both from a coaching standpoint, a front office standpoint, and from a personnel standpoint, trying to desperately make this guy succeed?
I mean, he's been given everything he needs to give to be successful. Now the question is, can he be? We don't know. And because of that, I'm not going to take that chance. Now, the good thing is you could probably get Caleb Williams. I don't know what's his ADP and
I'll tell you right now in the big gorilla right now, Caleb Williams is currently going as quarterback 13 at the 1208 is his ADP right now. And just by the way, Bob, just for reference's sake, when we look at Caleb Williams and where he's going, that is basically the exact same ADP as Brock Purdy. And he is going about a half round ahead of Drake May, and he is going about a full round behind Dak Prescott and Justin Fields. Okay.
So I think that's a fair spot for him. I have no problem taking a chance on Caleb as my backup. And so if I pick, like you mentioned, pick a high guy, a Josh Allen, somebody like that, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, then maybe I take a shot at Caleb Williams, especially in something like that where it's, one of them. If one of them goes down, then at least you got maybe what could be a solid scenario, and definitely in redrafts where you can probably need a good quarterback backup. Take him, or he could be one of those, as you mentioned before, pick this guy at round 10, pick Caleb at round 12, and one of them may be a super stud, and maybe it's Williams, maybe it's the other guy. But yeah, I'm solid with that spot. I was afraid that in this, with the big money, sometimes they take a little more short. They take those leaps of faith to try to be different, because that's how you win these big things. You got to, pick those players that others aren't. I just thought for sure that Caleb would be like top 10. But yeah, it sounds like they're being pretty fair with him.
You know what's funny is I think he was at one point during drafting season. I think he was being drafted in the top 10. That's not the case anymore. In a lot of my drafts so far, I've been getting these 4 quarterbacks, and usually in tandem with each other: Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, and who's the other one? Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and not Stroud. Was it Herbert? No, I think it was Goff, actually. I think it's Goff, which is fine. Goff is the one I'm least excited about, but I think about that offense and I think what they're going to put up, so I'm fine with that. Okay, let's go to your next question here on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire, the Bob Lung edition. Bob, who is this year's best mid-round receiver? Is it A, Keon Coleman, Is it B, Jauan Jennings? Is it C, Rome Odunze? Or is it D, someone else?
I'm going to phone a friend. So I'm going to let you pick.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I would say. Now, I'm not saying I'm right in this by any stretch of the imagination. Okay. But if you're asking me, I would say it's Rome Odunze.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of unknowns with that Bears offense this year, with DJ Moore, with Luther Burden, with Colston Loveland, right? But I like Odunze, number one, because of the draft capital they sunk into him. Number two, how much he was utilized last year, and there were just a lot of bad throws from Caleb Williams that Rome Odunze never had a shot of catching. I think that gets cleaned up with Ben Johnson. I think it gets cleaned up with Caleb Williams this year. So I think he is the best mid-round receiver. Now, I think you can make a case for Jauan Jennings, but when I've been splitting up my Niners receivers almost evenly between Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, where I don't even know if Pearsall's better than Jennings, which he might be. I can't say Jennings in good faith. And Keon Coleman, I'm a Florida State fan. I love Keon Coleman, but that team runs the ball and they run the ball and they run the ball. I like Shakir better there, and he's sort of like a quasi mid-round guy. So I can't say Coleman. I think you like Keon Coleman. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But at the same time, if I'm given these options, the phone a friend in me says Rome Odunze.
And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I was very torn between all three because I kind of liked them all. And I couldn't really find another mid-round one that I'm like, okay, that's the guy I would pick over those. So that's why it's kind of like, I didn't have any actual stats written down because they're all like have goods and bad, pluses and minuses. So yeah. So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's other, we could have gone you think about Travis Hunter, he's more of like an early round guy. He's like 6th round, but like Michael Pittman in the 10th round, I could see that. We talked about Egbuka. I know there's plenty of Matthew Golden people out there. We'll get to him in a little bit. I don't know how many Deebo Samuel people there are anymore. That's got to be the most sparsely attended bandwagon. I think everybody who's a Deebo guy has gotten off that bandwagon.
Yeah,
and then Jordan Adams too.
I didn't assume he was.
You're still on it.
Yeah, I'm still on it just because I think it's kind of like some of those other guys I've talked about. Is some of these guys have a chip on their shoulder, right? Deebo is let go. He was allowed to walk. Commanders pick him up real quick. So I feel like, okay, well, did they pick him up because they don't think McLaurin's going to sign? And even if McLaurin does sign, when's he going to report? Is he healthy? So like this gives Deebo that opportunity to show that maybe he's not done. Now, Deebo Samuel was 100% 3 years ago? No, we know that. But if he can be 80% and be basically the number one pass receiver, if McLaurin doesn't sign, I think there's a lot of potential. And at the value you're getting him at, why not take a shot in the dark? You got to assume they're going to let him run the ball like he used to in San Francisco. I think they're going to just run, they're going to use him until he wears out. And if he wears out, okay, fine. But he might also have that one last shot at being decent and, playing for a team that's on the winning track and could be valuable. So yeah, if I had to pick a guy, I do kind of like Deebo, over those other guys. I don't know. I mean, they're all kind of in that scenario, right?
Samuel did slip at the end of last month, the end of June. He was kind of going as like an early to mid 8th round guy. Now he's kind of settled in as a late 7th round. And we'll see how it's been kind of steady since then. So we'll see how it goes with Deebo Samuel. Keon Coleman, was I wrong? Are you a fan of Coleman this year? I
am.
Or maybe I'm just making this up in my head.
No, I actually, in the book, I think I have, that I think he has the potential. I don't know if Shakir is the strongest number one. So we'll see if Shakir can keep that consistency moving. He did have a nice second half last year, Shakir did. And so we'll see. So Keon, but I also like Elijah Moore. I always felt like he always got a bad rap no matter what team he went to. Now he has the ability to play with a real quarterback on a real team that actually wins, not the Browns, not the Jets, not all the garbage team he's played for. So maybe he has an opportunity too. Again, there's no true one. So one of those guys could take a step up, take a step back. It's hard to tell at this point.
And the one guy we haven't mentioned with Buffalo too is Joshua Palmer, who I think one of the beat writers, I don't know if it was Biscaglia or whoever it was, so that look out for him this year as a potential number one. So who the heck knows? I do know that they invested significant draft capital in the Coleman, and I do know that they paid Shakir. So those two have the inside track for me. But Elijah Moore late, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to fault you for that at all. Yeah. Okay, moving on to another position here on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire. Bob, who is the biggest sleeper tight end in this year's crop? Is it A, Terrence Ferguson? Is it B, Hunter Henry? Is it C, Dalton Kincaid? Or is it D, someone else?
Is Terrence Ferguson Jake? Is that a different person?
No, he's not. He's a Terrence Ferguson. No, Ferguson is the guy. He showed out at the combine. He was
so he's a rookie.
And he got drafted by he's a rookie this year.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Exactly.
I'm like, is his real name Terrence and not Jake? I thought we were talking about Jake Ferguson.
No, there are the Terrence and Jake
Ferguson. I didn't expect it to be a rookie.
Together. No, he's on here. But Jake Ferguson would fall into that someone else category if you wanted to use him too.
So actually, I actually had three choices because I thought it was Jake, but I also like Kincaid a little bit, and then I also like someone else was Rondé Gatson.
Okay.
Because he's a rookie, and I think he has potential but I'm going to go with the guy that I circled, which is Dalton Kincaid. Just 2 years ago, he was 11th in total points, 12th in consistency. Had a certainly very down year last year. 26th in consistency at 31%, 28th in total points, missed 4 games. It was a complete train wreck for him. If anybody has that potential to bounce back, I think it's him in that offense. And if he can start clicking again with Josh Allen like he did 2 years ago, then I think that he's got the highest potential for sure.
It's weird because I don't think Buffalo, much in the same way, I don't think Arizona used Marvin Harrison correctly last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Buffalo uses Dalton Kincaid to his strengths either.
No.
There's a lot of stuff there that just does not suit his game. Like get him down the seam, like use his athleticism to his advantage and to Buffalo's advantage. And we were not seeing that. Dalton Kincaid has slipped to tight end 13 this year, so he's not even being drafted as a starter at the 9-11 right now. That is behind Kraft and Jake Ferguson, and it's ahead of Colston Loveland and Dallas Goedert. You also mentioned Rondé Gadsden as a guy that you were considering here. Gadsden is a rookie, and he's on a team that loves to run the football. Why did Gadsden at least enter this conversation for you, Bob? A guy who's going as tight end 39 in the 20th round of the Big Gorilla.
I mean, I read all the stuff you get every day, and I just feel like every day I was reading about how Gadsden's looked great in OTAs, how he's looked great in all the preseason and all the stuff, and it's like you don't hear about rookie tight ends too often. You hear about Loveland, and you hear about I just went brain dead. Tyler Warren, but they were drafted in the top 10, or top 20. So to hear that coming out of a camp that, like you said, they're more run focused, maybe they got something that they want to try out. Maybe they'll use it more. They obviously, Mike Williams is not going to work because they let him retire today. So maybe we'll see more of Rondé down the middle. I mean, I know he was very athletic tight end. Certainly has that potential, and getting for free, especially like a tight end premium like your guys' league, you never know.
You never know. And I'm with you on Gadsden. He's a guy that I wish I was getting more of as my tight end 3, even in my non-tight end premium leagues right now. So I'm a fan of Gadsden. I think that's a guy that will creep up the draft board as we get closer and closer to Las Vegas and Paris Resort and Casino. for the FFPC live events. Okay, the next question here on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire for one Bob Lung. Who is this year's best injury away running back? And by injury away, I mean all this guy needs is one injury ahead of him, and he's going to set the world on fire. He is one injury away from absolutely crushing it. Your choices are, Bob. A, Zach Charbonnet. B, Ray Davis. God, that's 3 straight questions with the Buffalo Bill as an answer. I think that tells us something, too. C, Isaac Guerrero. Or D, someone else.
I was going to change D to all the above because I think they all have it. But if I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick Zach Charbonnet just because he's proved it now for multiple years. I mean, Ray Davis last year in the one game that Cook missed had 18.2 fantasy points in that game, which is why Buffalo's like, go ahead, James. You just sit there and tell us how much you're worth it. But I want you to watch the video of that game when you didn't play and watch Ray Davis run because, son, he's going to replace your ass. Guerrero obviously proved in San Francisco, when CMC went down and everybody else went down, he walked in and did a very nice job of backing up and had some nice consistent games as well when those injuries happen. So I think they all have potential, but if I got to pick, Charbonnet has done it now multiple years. And let's be honest, I mean, Kenneth Walker just is one sneeze away from going on the injury report. And so that, he already had, OTAs, he pulled something. I'm like, what? How do you pull something in OTAs, man? I love Charbonnet. I'll definitely be picking him. I love Kenneth Walker, too. If you could promise me 14, 15 games a year, I'd be picking him every day of the week. But the problem is I just don't have that much love for his injury history. And if I do, then I've got to pick Charbonnet like 2 rounds later. I'm not going to get him.
I think the other thing to keep in mind, too, is we have, the failed who was the offensive coordinator for Seattle last year, Ryan Grubb, who came over from the University of Washington. And he aired it out last year, man, with Metcalf and JSN and all those guys. But he was fired after 1 year. And I think it's because Mike McDonald, the head coach, is like, we got to run the ball more. We got to run the ball better. So he brings in Clint Kubiak, who is now the new OC. And I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on the running game, which to me supports the Charbonnet aspect because we have seen what he was able to do when Walker missed time. And now there might be even a bigger opportunity for him if that injury does happen. So Charbonnet is your pick there. We'll go to the signal caller position for this next question on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire. I feel like I should do a Regis Philbin voice or something with this. Next question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We're gonna do this one, Bob. Who is this year's most impactful late round quarterback? Is it A, Jared Goff? Is it B, Trevor Lawrence? Is it C, Jordan Love? Or is it D, you guessed it, someone else?
So my answer is D. And the reason is I'm going to go with a quarterback that is probably going to have 2 wide receivers at his beck and call that could end up in the top 15 in fantasy points this coming year. And that is one Matthew Stafford. That's who I was going to guess. As soon as I heard the 2 top 15 receivers, I'm like, he's going to say Stafford. And you're right. I mean, Stafford is we look at, late round quarterbacks. Stafford is going super late. Bobby's quarterback 22. You don't have to invest anything higher than a 17th round pick in the Big Gorilla right now. I'll let you talk more to Matthew Stafford. And quite frankly, I think Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams are going to be involved in this conversation as well. But why is Matthew Stafford for you, and list all the reasons, why he is the most impactful late round quarterback for drafters in 2025? I mean, he's always been it's been a long time since he was, a top 12. And I get that. But you're talking about a backup. And when you're looking at backups, you want a guy that plays on a very high-powered offense, which I know Jared Goff does. But Jared Goff has also he's very consistent. He's put up 3 straight years of 47% consistency. 3 straight years, which is below 50, which means half the games he's not helping you. Now, Matthew Stafford's consistency last year was awful. We get it. Puka is hurt. Cooper's hurt. Cup's hurt. It was a mess. And, he's still 19th in total points. But 2 years ago, he was 15th in total points. He was above 50% consistency. And I feel like having, these two guys side by side and a good running game in Kyren Williams, if Stafford stays healthy, which obviously is the big key as he gets older, how can he not be a very, very good, impactful late-round quarterback? And as late as he's going, there's hardly any risk there at all.
I think the other thing that comes to mind for me is the tight end position. You have Tyler Higbee there, who is coming off now full year now, recovered from that ACL. They invested in Terrence Ferguson, who is probably the future at the position, but I think he can make some contributions this year as well. Right. The Rams don't really throw a ton to their running backs, so I think that hurts Stafford a little bit. But again, dude, quarterback 22, what are we doing here? You can definitely have an impact when you're talking about what he can do for you for fantasy-wise, and he's basically costing you nothing in drafts. Yeah, that's a huge impact. Moving on. On the next question for Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire, Bob Lung edition. Bob, who is this year's best rookie receiver going to be? Is it A, Matthew Golden? Is it B, Travis Hunter? Is it C, Tetairoa McMillan? Or is it D, someone else?
This one, you know what? I think I'm going to phone a friend. Let's do 50-50.
Okay, 50-50. I'm going to take two of them off the board here, all right? And the two I'm taking off the board are the first two. Matthew Golden is off the board. Travis Hunter's off the board. You can either pick Tetairoa McMillan
against my choice.
Pick someone else. McMillan against your choice, yes.
So this is best rookie receiver. And I assume from a fantasy perspective, obviously that's why we're here.
Fantasy perspective, yes. Think of it not from Bob, the other thing too, not from a dynasty perspective. From
no. I understand. Yeah.
This year. Got it. Okay.
I think the best fantasy will be McMillan, but if Godwin or Evans goes down early and Ibuka gets to play 15 games, it's going to be him.
So it's contingent on injury. So if Emeka Egbuka steps in as the number 2 receiver on Tampa Bay early on in the season, you like his fantasy prospects significantly better than Tet McMillan.
Right. Just because of the offense. I mean, again, we know that, certainly Bryce Young had a nice stretch down, near the end there at the end of 2024. This kid has talent. He was certainly drafted as a high pick. He's got, he's basically the number 1 receiver because Legette isn't it, and Thielen's 105 years old. So from a fantasy perspective, it's a volume thing. They got to throw to him because that's pretty much all they've got. Where most of the other guys that are rookies have a lot of stuff in front of them. You've got Jack Beck, you've got Trey Harris, Pat Bryant, Matthew Golden, Ibuka, Burden. I mean, there's just so many players that have way too much traffic in front of them to be able to make a decent impact, where McMillan certainly has a fairly unobstructed path to success. So I think you have to pick him just based on that.
Bob, this isn't part of the game, but I want to ask you this regarding the 4 rookie receivers we just talked about. Give me a yes or no on whether you draft these guys when I list their ADP, okay? Tet McMillan, wide receiver 23 at the 502. Would you draft him there? Okay.
Not that early.
Travis Hunter, wide receiver 32 at the 605.
I'm going to say no because I just don't know what they're going to do with him. Offense, defense thing. Yeah.
Matthew Golden, wide receiver 46 at the 904.
I just don't like that crowded field of receivers they have. So
and Tucker Kraft.
There's just too many other options that are veterans that I get it. The first round wide receiver since 2003, something ridiculous like that. So they got to give him every opportunity, but we don't know. So I'm going to pass on that one too.
And then the last one here, he's going basically right after Matthew Golden. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver 48 at the 909.
I would probably say yes, whether I drafted Evans and Godwin or not. But I do like Godwin because I've always been a Godwin fan, and his value is so tasty right now. So I'd probably take Godwin, then take a bouquet as well. Yeah.
I would say this, and just like if I'm in a closed 12-team league where I'm just competing against 11 other owners, I'm with you on grabbing the cuff to either Evans or Godwin in Egbuka. If I'm playing in a large tournament like the Big Gorilla, like the main event, I'm not going to double up on them. I'm either going to take Godwin or Evans or Egbuka. I'm not going to take 2 out of the 3. But that's the only caveat. Otherwise, I'm with you. In a closed 12-team league, it makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah. Final question here, Bob, on Who Wants to Be a Fantasy Millionaire. And this is a fun one. Who is this year's biggest bounce back player? Is it A, Tyreek Hill? Is it B, Christian McCaffrey? Is it C, Chris Olave? Or is it D, someone else?
I circled McCaffrey just because I feel like if he just stays healthy, right? I mean, it's all what it comes down to.
That's a big
but
if,
it's a big
right?
if. If I didn't go McCaffrey, I think I would go someone else, and it would be Mahomes, because Mahomes had an atrocious year last year. I mean, 31% consistency. I mean, he was quarterback 20. That's just absurd for him. So bounce back makes all the sense in the world. Now the Rashee Rice thing kind of screws things a little bit, but I don't think that's going to stop them from getting the ball downfield more, stretching it out, that kind of stuff. So, Pat Mahomes can easily bounce back. That's not a given, but I'm going with McCaffrey just because I feel like, you got to give him a shot. You got to put him out there. I'm drafting him at the 1-2 turn, which is I'm perfectly fine with. I'm not drafting the top 5. So, I'm okay with that. I can get him in a top receiver, or, I've even had a shot where I took him and Derrick Henry back to back. I'm like, I'm good with that. They both have potential to get hurt one, but hell, you got to do it. So,
the other thing too with Mahomes, even if Rashee Rice is suspended for several games, which may or may not happen, he's still going to have Hollywood Brown back this year too. And Hollywood Brown really did not play until like the very end of the season. So I think that's a feather in Mahomes' cap as well. I do want to ask you about Tyreek Hill here. This is more of like a Miami Dolphins offense question in general than Tyreek Hill. How do you feel about it this year, Bob? Because they have some playmakers in Hill, Achane, Waddle. They don't have Jonnu Smith anymore. Tagovailoa, obviously. I think it really depends upon his health, but how would you be drafting Dolphins players? Do you like him this year, or are you letting somebody else go with him?
If Achane falls to me late in the first, there's a good possibility I might take him, or early second. But I'm not drafting Tyreek. I mean, his ADP it's certainly not what he normally would be, like top 10 wide receivers. I don't know. What is it? What is he in the big game?
In the Big Gorilla right now, he is outside the top 10, as you said. Wide receiver 13, he is now going at the 303. He is probably going to move ahead of Rashee Rice, I would imagine, pretty quickly here, and to move up to wide receiver 12. But that still puts him behind Collins, London, McConkey, and A.J. Brown. He'd be going ahead of Rice, Garrett Wilson, and T. Higgins, which I know you're going to take Wilson over Tyreek Hill every time.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Tyreek, always drafted him, but I drafted him a lot last year and, burn me once kind of thing.
Right.
And Waddle was just the same. We don't know what Tua, again, it's one of those, if you can sign me in blood that, Tua plays 15 games and, all 3 of them play 15 games, that's a whole different story. Their defense is terrible, so they're probably going to have to throw the ball a lot. But I just, if he's sitting there and there's those people around him that you mentioned, he's probably, I'm just probably not going to pick him. I'm going to pick one of those other players and let somebody else have him. If he has a good season, good for them. But yeah, I just don't want to be that person.
Let me just one final thing about this question. Chris Olave, there's obviously a lot working against him. He's coming off all these concussions.
Mhm.
He comes back to an offense where we don't know who the starting quarterback is, and we believe the team is not going to be very good this year. But FFPC players recognize all those things, and they are pushing him down draft boards. Chris Olave is wide receiver 35 at the 702. If we factored ADP into this, do you think that he is a nice bounce back option here in the early 7th round?
Heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be fantastic. I did the FSGA draft a few weeks ago in Chicago, and I took Olave in round 4, and I was okay with that. And interestingly enough, I picked 3 straight Ohio State receivers. So I got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and not Marvin Harrison. Was it Bouquet? No.
Yeah, McLaurin maybe.
McLaurin.
Because
I was like, well, he'll sign, and
yeah.
So yeah, I was like, so everybody was like, every time it came back to me, like, you're gonna take a Bouquet, and I'm like, and I don't remember if I did. I think somebody took him in front of me or something. They're like, I'm not gonna let Bob have another Ohio State receiver, and I was kind of like, it just fell that way. But then when it got to, I think it was McLaurin, because obviously people were down on him holding out. I'm like, might as well have the trio, so I did.
Well, this is all about your Ohio roots, right? Like it
is. I'm not a massive Ohio State fan. Like, I have friends who like live and breathe and bleed scarlet and gray. I'm not that guy, but yeah, I root for my home team.
I had to drive down. This is probably about 15 years or so ago now. Actually, no, it's less than that because they just celebrated their anniversary. But I drove from Appleton, Wisconsin, northeast Wisconsin, down to St. Louis, Missouri for a wedding for one of my buddies from college. And he is a huge Ohio State fan. He never lived in the state. He lived in Iowa his whole life. Oh, no, I shouldn't say Iowa his whole life. He moved to Wisconsin for part of it. But he has no attachment there other than he just always rooted for him. And then, like, they had at everybody's, like, spot at the dinner, they had, like, these Buckeyes was, like, what you got. It was like a dessert. It was like a chocolate.
Oh, yeah, it's chocolate and peanut butter. Yes.
But it was a Buckeye or whatever. I'm like, my God, this guy loves his Buckeyes. People go crazy. For it as well.
It is nuts. It is nuts.
And Deb West tuning in right now. Woot woot, Appleton. Yeah, that's right. Appleton, Wisconsin. Love it here. It's fantastic. So to recap, who wants to be a fantasy millionaire? The Bob Lung edition. Biggest early round draft bust is Ashton Genty. Most impactful year 2 player, Chase Brown. Best mid-round receiver, Rome Odunze. Best sleeper tight end is Dalton Kincaid. The biggest injury away running back is Zach Charbonnet. Most impactful late round quarterback is Matthew Stafford. The best rookie receiver will be Teteroa McMillan. And the biggest bounce back player is one Christian McCaffrey. Congratulations, Bob. You have won somebody $1 million in the FFPC main event or the Big Gorilla. You never know. Yes. We talk about those tournaments a lot, but I want to remind everybody, if you like playing fantasy football 365 days a year, Dynasty startups are available at myffpc.com. The entry fees start off at $100. They go up to $5,000, 2,000 plus leagues in 15 years, and none have ever folded. Check it out at myffpc.com. I know we're running out of time, Bob, but I want to take a quick break, catch our breath. And when we come back, we're going to tell everybody about the Fantasy Football Expo as if they didn't know already, but we want to maybe people who are not aware of it, we want to talk about that. I also want to talk about your consistency guide too. And then we'll get into big guy fantasy sports as well. And if there's time, I want to talk about your pros versus Joe strategy as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Good.
He's Bob Lung, ladies and gentlemen, the founder of the Fantasy Football Expo, of course, from BigGuyFantasySports.com. I'm Eric Balkman. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, there is so much more show for you here on the Better Sports Network.
What's up, everybody? Andrew Cooper here of Fantasy Alarm, and I'm here to talk to you guys about how to take advantage of your takes. I got them. You got them. We've all been thinking about ways to go with this rookie class, maybe even ways to get away from the rookie class, to go with the older veterans, to take advantage. Dynasty startup leagues at FFPC.com. My FFPC, that's the place to play. That's where you can go in and you can load up on the rookies from this class. If you love Ashton Genty, if you love a Marion Hampton, if you're fired up about Pat Bryant, whoever it is, you can go in and get all these guys now and have them for their entire careers. Now is the time to get in and do it. Or if you don't like these rookies, if you think it was stupid that the Bears took Colston Loveland, if you think Emeka Egbuka is going to be buried behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin for years and years, flip it. Go in and draft veterans. Go in and draft guys now while everybody else is going for picks and players and prospects. Load up, Put your name on the trophy and the money in your pocket right now. And the best place to do it, where I do it, where all the experts do it, FFPC, myffpc.com. And when you use promo code ALARM, they'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more. So get in there now and do a dynasty startup draft. Draft your team. Show everyone that you would have dominated the real NFL draft, that you're the real best GM, and win some money over at myffpc.com now.
Dynasties are only part of the fun over at myffpc.com, where you can play Dynasty Fantasy Football. Don't forget about the FFPC main event. It is our flagship event. Check it out. $1 million grand prize. If you have your team bought and paid for by July 27th, you're going to get your early draft slot on August 3rd. So even if you're drafting at Paris Resort and Casino in Las Vegas in September, you're going to know what draft slot you have by August 3rd. That's a full month plus of preparation. If you don't want to wait that long to draft at Paris, you want to draft from the comfort of your own home, you can do that. We have online drafts going, live drafts and slow drafts. myffpc.com is where to go for that. Okay, let's get into the conversation, or get back into the conversation we've been having with Bob Lung. At Bob_Lung on the X, the guy who founded the Fantasy Football Expo. We talked about this when you were on the show last year, but I want, for anybody who didn't see it or for anybody who forgot, can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for wanting to start this Fantasy Football Expo? I remember in its first few years, it was nothing compared to what it has grown into right now. But what made you want to start this up?
It was in my head for years. So I've born and raised Canton, Ohio, a few miles from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Grew up going to the games with dad, grandpa, we watched the induction ceremonies in our lawn chairs while they did the induction right on the steps of the Hall of Fame. There was maybe, 400 or 500 people. And it was perfect. We loved it, and then as time went on, we saw it grow and grow and grow. And now, it's 23,000 in the stadium, live on ESPN, TV, the game, the concerts, the parades, it's just an amazing event. And as I saw that, and I was driving for 34 years, as I'd mentioned before, I got to see a lot of the inside of how that all happens, how they do packages, how they do stuff, how they keep people engaged all weekend long. And those things started spinning in my head about, well, if they can do that, couldn't I do like a fantasy football weekend like that, where people come into town, we do some drafts, we have some parties, we have a big expo with like trade show booths and panel discussions. And it all kind of came in my head. And I presented this back in 2016, and we did a small kind of thing, one day event. Fabiano came in, Radcliffe, Bob Harris, all these guys. They brought a couple Hall of Famers, Warren Moon and stuff. We had a one-day thing, went well. But the Hall of Fame didn't think it made enough money. So they just said, we're not going to do this anymore. So I kind of went in hiatus. But then the idea about having a King's Classic or a best of best came into my head. And why don't we do it live in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Have SiriusXM come in. So I actually got that off the ground in 2018 with the help of Andy Behrens, Brad Evans, Dave Richards, those kind of guys who went to SiriusXM and said, hey, Bob wants to do this. Do you think it'll work out? And it did. And it was very successful. And then that just rolled into the Expo weekend, becoming a thing in 2019. We got 75 people show up. It was a start. COVID came in 2020. I honestly thought it was dead. I thought, okay, well, that was a nice try. But 2021 came, people started asking about it. And if there was something that the COVID did do well, it sat people in their homes for a year and a half, and everybody wanted to get out, and 550 people showed up in Canton in 2021. And now we're in the 750, 800 range, looking to get 1,000 someday. And it's exceeded every dream and expectation I ever had.
And you pointed this out too. Parties, fantasy football drafts, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's a ton of content creators on site. What I want to focus in on, and Deb West was posting this on YouTube right now, the ultimate fan experience. Is that new for 2025?
So that is new. So every year we do a survey of all the attendees. What could we do better? What did you not like? What did you we want to hear the truth, because this event isn't for me. It's for the people coming into town. And so one of the things we heard was, there's not enough fan engagement. Like, people have anxiety. Not everybody's outgoing as you as I, Eric. And so they said, I came there and I wanted to go talk to Bob Harris or, Howard Bender, or Andy Behrens, but I was a little bit taken back because there's a lot of people around them and I don't want to barge in. And okay, I get that. So they said, could we have like a meet and greet with just those guys? Could we have a guided tour of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not just a ticket? And so I answered their question. So we created this ultimate fan package, which basically means you come in and get to do everything at the top of the line. You get exclusive t-shirt that says ultimate fan. You get to go to the meet and greet with Bob Harris, Marcus Grant, Michael Florio, JJ Zacharias, and all the big names. Then, you get to be in the draft night out, which is a Saturday afternoon thing. You get a guided tour of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You get to, I think all the things. There's so much. I'm missing something there. Yeah, and then you get so the draft night out ticket. Did you mention that too? Yes. So the draft night out ticket is included. Oh, and they get to be in the Fans Classic. So that was another part of the survey. Bob, it's really cool that you guys, the experts, get to draft in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but how does a fan get to do that? And I'm like, I never thought of that. So we have the Kings Classic, we have Queens Classic with 14 females in it. Again this year, Lindsay Rhodes is drafting for the first time, so we're excited for her to come in. We've got Kings Classic IDP, Kings Classic Dynasty, Kings Classic College Fantasy Football. So we had all this, but we had nothing for the fans. So I said, all right, we create a Fans Classic. So each one of the top guys, Bob and all the guys, pick their favorite fan. And that person's coming in and is going to draft right there beside us in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then the winner of that tournament, and they're going to play the same format, same 14 teams, 3 flex, all that stuff. That winner then will get to come back, all expense paid, hotel, airfare, everything, to come back. And they get to sit side by side with their favorite expert during the draft of the Kings Classic. So we wanted it to be something that, like, kind of like a Comic-Con, like you get to sit there and be beside your favorite actor, actress, but in this case, fantasy football expert. So that's where the ultimate fan experience came from. There's some other lesser packages, gold, silver, for things that you don't, maybe you've been there a couple of times, but you still want to do all this stuff, but you've toured the Hall of Fame or whatever. So there's the smaller ones, but we wanted to be more fan engaged this year. And that's what people were telling us last year. So yeah, it's been a big success so far. We're really excited about it.
You're also going to get Pro Football Hall of Fame merchandise discounts and special access to the Discord too.
Yes, right.
With the
That's
ultimate
true, too.
fan experience too. Okay, so the FF Expo is going on August 8th through 10th, 2025. You're looking at what are we at? About 3 weeks away, Bob? 3 weeks from today. The Expo is going to happen. And you can buy tickets is the best place to go, thefantasyfootballexpo.com to buy tickets. That's where everybody should be going to get their tickets.
Yep. Just go there, get your tickets. We will cut off tickets around August 4th just to keep, so we have everything organized, name cards, all that kind of stuff. So when you show up and you check in, you'll have all your stuff available. You can buy them at the door as well. But we're really excited for another year. Like you said, we got a lot of, cool things with the meet and greets. We moved the party out of the stadium into a sports bar, combined restaurant, big place, lots of TVs, indoor, outdoor stages with DJs and music. And it's going to be a good time and much better selection of food and drinks, which has always been the complaint at the stadium. We're excited about that. Like you said, all your favorites are coming in. A lot of the guys I just mentioned. will be coming there, drafting, hanging out with us all weekend. So yeah, if I always say two questions. Have you been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? If the answer is no, and you play fantasy football and that answer is yes, you have zero reason not to be there because you can do both at the same time. And oh, by the way, if you stick around for Monday, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is literally 60 miles north. You can go visit that before you fly back on Sunday out of Cleveland. So it's
back when I was a kid, I did both of those with my brothers and my dad. We hit up the Pro Football, and I know I'm due for another Pro Football Hall of Fame trip because there's so much there. It is so like everything that's in there. It's like and it's obviously been updated. I mean, this is like 30 years ago was the last time I was there, and then obviously the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, fantastic.
No, it is an amazing place. If you haven't been there, you definitely got to go there too. If you're even remotely into music, it's the place to be. It's super cool. And then of course we do the big expo on Sunday, 50 trade show booths, every kind of, redraft, dynasty leagues, football guys, underdog, all those guys will be there. Plus a lot of new people with a lot of new apps, games, things that you've never heard of. And they are so amazing. You just don't want to miss this. We have 3 different stages of panel discussions all going on at the same time. So again, there's redraft here, there's IDP here, there's dynasty there's women of fantasy on stage talking. Again, Lindsay Rose and all the ladies will be on stage answering the questions because guess what, folks? They're just as smart as we are. Don't give them any less love because of that. It's a fantastic time. And it's worth just getting in the car, driving, and look to see if there's direct flights into Akron, Canton, especially if you live south. So Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Nashville, all those areas down there, usually Breeze or Allegiant fly directly to Akron, Canton, and it's literally 5 minutes from the Hall of Fame. So it's an easy trip in.
TheFantasyFootballExpo.com. That's TheFantasyFootballExpo.com is where to go to get tickets. Again, August 8th through 10th, but get your tickets now because you don't want to be as my co-host on my Friday night HSFF Hour show, Farrell Elliott always says, don't be a wish I had. So check that out. And I want to get into this. Yeah, exactly. FOMO is real. I want to get into the consistency guide. Bob, I feel like you're kind of like a unicorn in the industry where a lot of people glom on to a website and a content provider, and that's sort of how they get their start in the industry. You kind of just did everything yourself. You started the expo, you kept the expo going by yourself, and the consistency guide, which again we've talked about. This is the 11th year, 10th or 11th year,
10th year, yeah,
10th year, and 8 times the last 8 years it's been nominated for best fantasy football publication by the FSGA.
FSWA actually.
FSWA, sorry, FSWA.
Yes.
And I want to say that the consistency aspect, this is something that nobody else is doing. So once again, you've carved your own niche in the industry. Tell us about what the consistency guide entails. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to put this together, and what's made it award nominated for the better part of a decade now.
Well, first off, don't ever say that I created the consistency because Tristan Cockcroft will smack you across the head because he actually was doing it in like 1999. And I didn't even know it when I started. I just came up with, hey, I need my players to be more consistent. And then I did a search at the time and found Tristan Cockcroft had just a beginning of the year, end of year, whatever, total consistency for players. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is not new, but I just wanted to expand it. And that's what kind of I did with my ideas and the book. So yeah, it was, I was playing in a league 2002. I had the MVP Sean Alexander on my team. And my team was the 3rd highest scoring team in the league. And I went 7-7 and didn't make the playoffs. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense. And so I'm an accountant by day. So obviously crunching numbers is my thing. So I started looking at it. And that was the year when he won that MVP. He had 5 touchdowns. I think it was a Monday night game. He had 3 touchdowns in a game, 2 in another game. So he had 2/3 of his touchdowns in 3 out of the 14 regular season games before the playoffs. And I'm like, well, if he just scored 1 or 2 touchdowns every week through those 14 weeks, I would have won 2 more games, made the playoffs, and ultimately would have won the championship. And I'm like, well, if that applies to my simple league, which we play touchdown only because we started in 1985, I thought I can apply the same process to whether it's PPR or non-PPR or whatever. And so then, working with people, my brother-in-law did Visual Basics back in the day. So he created a database and just kept evolving. And then, started doing the book. But the idea was to continue to build on that information. And just, I kind of sell it like a religion. Like, I'm like, look, I want you to believe in this. You don't have to believe, it's not the end all. That's the one thing I try to tell people is like, I'm the French fries in your Happy Meal. Your burger is going to come from the big site you talked about, Eric, and whatever it is, ESPN, Fantasy Alarm, that's fine. But just buy the book and put it beside your stuff. And when you're torn between some players at certain positions and certain ADPs, take a look at the book and see how the consistency played out for those two. You may be surprised that these 2 guys that look very similar in total points might be like this, and this guy's top 10 consistency and this guy's 21st. And that will help you draft your better players, because if you are having the same issues that I had, which is you're scoring points, but you're not, your record's not reflecting that. It's normally, there is bad luck. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of it, they'll tell me the players on their team. I'm like, yeah, well, he was only 35% consistent, even though he was 15th in total points. And this guy was this, or you had Patrick Mahomes and, he was inconsistent. Then it makes sense to them. And that's what I usually hear. I get the emails at the end of the year. Bob, thanks so much. I was missing the playoffs. I just was struggling. I thought it was bad luck. I used your book, made the playoffs. Sometimes they've won championships. And I get those thank yous. And that's worth more than any of the money I make off the book, because that's what I'm using to be successful in my expert league. So hopefully they can be successful in their leagues too. So yeah, that's always been kind of my passion, is just sharing that knowledge and putting the book together and putting it out there. And, if I don't get nominated, it's fine. I always kind of chuckle because I'm like nominated against NBC Sports, CBS Sports, Fantasy Life, I'm like, all right, I'll take that. To me, that's a win. The fact that I didn't even mention with those people is a win. And whether I win I won in 2018. I did win once, but if I never win again, I just get nominated with those top people, top sites. I feel like I'm honored at that point.
Yeah, rubbing elbows with greatness is tantamount to greatness. So, and you can get this, by the way, Amazon.com. Just search Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. It is available on there. It's less than $20. Well worth it. 150 plus pages. Check it out. The Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, the formerly award-winning and currently award-nominated by the FSWA over at Amazon.com. Okay, I want to wrap things up with this. Pros versus Joes gets underway this Sunday. We'll be broadcasting all those drafts live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour for the next 2 weeks. There's 6 of them. There's obviously a 7th slow draft. We are not broadcasting the slow draft live. That would be very boring.
Right.
The live one, the first live one will be Sunday night, in which one Bob Lung is participating. He will be drafting live on Sunday night. Looking back on your history, we have had nearly 700 players participate in Pros versus Joes over the years. Awesome. Bob, you currently sit in Fantasy Mojo's all-time standings inside the top 60. Out of those 700, you have had 3 top 20 overall finishes, including 17th last year. Your plan of attack this year in this, can you let us behind the curtain and how you're going to do this year?
Well, let me start off by saying that this will be a part of it.
Of course, yes.
It's not best ball, so
it is best ball. It is best ball.
Oh, it is?
It is best ball
last year?
Yes, it was best ball last year as well. Yeah, I know you're in a ton of leagues and it gets mixed up, but it is best ball. Yes.
Okay. But I still use it. So I won't say I won't use the book, because I feel like in best ball, you've got to have the ups. You got to have the inconsistent players, but you also have to have that core that you can count on that is going to be there every week for you. I know last year I had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I think, on my team. And, like a Jacoby Myers. I had, I think I had Jonnu Smith. I think I may have either picked him up or got him. So I had a little bit of both that helped me. The interesting thing was I was, like you said, 17th, and there were still 2 people in my division ahead of me. So I didn't even win my own league. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. I looked at the rankings. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm 17th. And I'm like, oh, look, the guy that's in first is like 4th. And then I think Mauricio was like ahead of me at like 13th or 14th. I'm like, I can't catch a break, man.
Yeah.
But it's going to be that combination. It's going to be, where I pick. Because do we know yet?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly where you pick right now. So I'm
maybe I did know that. I just forgot.
I'm sure that's what happened, but I'm looking at it right now. So in pros versus Joes this year, you're drafting Sunday night. You have the 9 spot right now.
Yeah. So, I've done some in the middle, round 6, 6 or 7, and I've had some early ones. So at 9, there's so many options, right? McCaffrey could fall to me. Yep. Henry, Barkley, no, not Barkley. But then again, there could be some, decent receivers there. It is tight end premium, as you mentioned. So, guys like McBride will move into the first round. Bowers will be going probably before 9, but you never know. Maybe Bowers falls to 9. So that's one of those. I mean, when you're at that spot in this, when you have those unique twist to a league, 2 quarterback, or it's not 2 quarterback, right?
No.
Yep. So it's tight end premium is kind of the only outlier, right?
Yeah. Basically. So, and no kickers, no defenses. It's the best ball swim.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So you never know. I don't know, I mean, would McBride maybe fall to me? Maybe. And if he is, that could be my pick. There's just such a great value in both those guys, or I just go ahead and take the best player available, and I go and wait to get some of those other tight ends we talked about earlier later in the pick or later in the round. So I'm always excited. It's always one of my favorite drafts. Of course, you broadcast it live, so I've always got my ear on what you guys are talking about. I think I usually pop on and say hi and talk to you guys. Yep. So one of my favorites. So looking forward to it for sure.
That will be Sunday night, 8 p.m. live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Bob Lung, along with other luminaries in the industry, JJ Zacharyson, Peter Overzet, Todd Burrows, Jeff Manns, Tyler Bucher will all be drafting in that. So it's loaded. It is loaded. Steven Yurgalos is actually drafting at the 8th spot. Steven Yurgalos was in the chat tonight.
Great. So there goes all my picks.
Yes. I don't know what you're doing. But listen, this was so much fun, Bob. It always is every year. We will continue to follow you on the X at Bob_Lung. We will check out your website, bigguyfantasysports.com. Of course, the Fantasy Football Expo. Go to the fantasyfootballexpo.com. August 8th through 10th is when it is. Get your tickets now before the tickets are cut off by roughly August 4th or earlier. Yeah. So check that out. And, of course, get the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide on Amazon. Just search Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. You'll see Bob's smiling mug up there, and you can get it, and it'll help you out with your drafts this year. Bob, Thank you so much. I'll probably talk with you Sunday night on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as you're drafting.
All right, thanks, man.
You bet it. You bet. Thanks so much. FFPC main event, FFPC Big Gorilla, FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments, and the Dynasty startups available at myffpc.com. We'll be back at 7:00 next week with another pro from the FFPC Pros versus Joes. Ryan Kramer, one half of the Sports Gambling Podcast, will join me at 7:00 next Thursday. For our producer, Matt Deutsch, for Bob Long, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been Insider Access presented by the FFPC on the Better Sports Network. See you next week.